If they're playing a sport that's just a single individual, such as tennis, then they have to get them to be highly disciplined to compete against other athletes. So you must work on the full character of the competitor. And you're going to work it on it 6 days a week, basically, throughout the year. You're going to show them films. You're going to have them improve themselves. You're going to help, you have to try to build pride in them. You must build pride. You must build a quality of character in the young person in order for them to succeed. We at St. Francis and so many other schools, I came from a public high school, okay? And we had coaches, they learned my name in high school. And they dealt with this on a very individual basis in trying to get us to be successful. So that, whether it's public or private, if you're in this sporting game and sports and so on, you have to deal with the total person or the total team and get them to respect each other, get them to have values that are wholesome, and that they are going to try their best to be disciplined by listening to the coach to give them directions to do things in a certain manner. If you don't do those things in a certain manner, you're not going to have the success that he or she is trying to give to you to be successful. So there's a give and take there that the child must listen to and helps them in the classroom. Whether he or she chooses to go home at night and do the studies, that's a little bit of a different problem. But it still requires discipline. It still requires giving them themselves, and to understand that they also have a responsibility to other kids on the team. An awful lot of team sports are built on mutual respect for each other on the team, because without it, they're not going to be successful as a team. We had it built in many ways because the kids were coming to us from similar circumstances, you see. And so I think that we have a great opportunity in sports. And that's why I think if the country could do so much more in the area of after-school activities or after-school orchestra and music programs, it doesn't have to be just a sport, but I think a good program of activities after school will reach out to attract and help so many youngsters in terms of activities, sports, good theater, musical development. All of that fosters the same thing. It fosters a love of school, love of learning, and it may not show, and the kid may not articulate it right away, but if you were to take it away from him, he would know that. He would let you know, basically, he wants to be a member of the orchestra, he wants to be a member of the team. And I think we have to build on that. I think we have I don't think we've done a good job, for example, in nutrition. We talk about it, but our kids are still not eating as well as they should be eating. We could do so much more in terms of nutrition. So our schools still have a big job out there in many areas. And it's fostered very well through good athletic programs. And we've been fortunate to have them here at the prep, as well as so many of the public and Catholic schools in our area. But I think there's a big job still to be done.
Coach, another question. I've watched you over the years. Every time you go to the Frank McGuire seminar, every time you're learning, you got your notepad out, you're taking notes. I look at you as one of the great intellects in sport. And I know you're a humble guy too, but what I've been amazed at is you're keeping your mind fertile and young, the way you attack it, the advice you give to the young coaches out there, as well as parents. The way you look at things and the way you learn. Perhaps you could share a little bit of that with us.
Well, first of all, I know I'm not smart. That's the first area, okay? So I have a love of life. And I went into this profession to help people. So I'm starting with the point of view, I'm going to try to either learn from you, Sean, or I'm going to ask you to help me, or I'm going to try to help you. And so I believe that we, as human beings, I have a philosophy, as human beings, we should be helping each other, you see? And I think we had that as our focus, maybe a lot of our race problems would improve rather quickly. But the point is, that's my particular philosophy. And I'm smart enough to know that I can always learn. I enjoy learning in that manner of a Jack Ryan. He has much more statistics today than I even can think about. But I just think that you learn from everyone. So if I go to McGuire and I go to listen to all these great coaches talk, whether it's Jack Curran or Bobby Knight or whoever's over there, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime situation in most cases. We don't have the opportunity to hear them enough. They're not on TV in that particular coaching mode. You see them performing with their team, but not in the relationship of a one-on-one or listening to what they have philosophically. But when you hear them talk at clinics, coaching clinics, you hear more of the philosophical come about, and therefore you can learn. So I always feel that there may be only one or two statements that may come across at a particular lecture. I say, my God, that's a tremendous thought. It hits you because, in a certain way, because maybe you're open to it, or you just haven't thought about that before. Okay? It's like all of a sudden in football you're playing the spread offense, even though we have the belly and we're trying to philosophically get both of them to match up and so forth. But so other coaches are out there thinking. They're thinking how to beat you, of course, but the point is that they're doing things in a sound manner to defeat your team. So there's a learning situation. You're forced in order to bring your team to a level of competition. Or if you're playing an individual sport, the same thing would take place. So there's a great enjoyment. That's one of the great enjoyments of sports. Tonight, the Yankees and the Mets are opening up in beautiful stadiums, so people are going to marvel that particular situation just for the enjoyment of competition. They bring their children, et cetera, and so on. And we can do. I'm frustrated in that there's so much more we can do. Not to have good fields and good facilities, not to have school orchestras and bands. I think there's a missing area there for kids that have that skill, that enjoyment. I think we should have a swimming team. So all of the things you can do with young people, if we impacted that in a greater manner, we would, I think, really lower the failure rate academically. I think we'd really lower the situation of kids quitting school. I think we'd really lower the need for showing off or whatever else that's driving them to drugs. So there's an awful lot that can be done through sports. I've seen it, I've lived it, and if you're around it enough, you just see the kids that go from point zero to an outstanding individual in sports. And so we have a lot to offer.
One last question, Coach, or a point. Bobby Knight, when he won his 900-plus win to become the all-time winningest coach, in the New York Times said, this would really be something if it was on a high school level. But here's a guy who understands the importance of the high school coach. I look at the impact you've had on Jack, who, you were a surrogate father, and that's why he's here today. And you know what Jack means to you in terms of staying in touch, and that's why I'm passing the torch back to him. But our hats off to you at the Frank McGuire Foundation for the impact you're making on society, and so on. But one last question, too, coaches. Both Jack and I are parents. We're trying to do a good job. We need surrogate parents like coaches to help us with the total development of the kid. Is there any advice you can give to us as parents to help us do a better job?
One of the first things I would say to any parent, they must give of themselves to the youngster, because the world, to be successful today in the world, in business and so forth, it takes an awful lot of your time and your efforts. In fact, President Obama is seeing that now. Can I imagine the time? What time does he have to spend with his children? He's hoping that his wife, I saw it on TV this morning, Michelle, that she's mixing very well with the younger children over. She's making it a point to mix with the younger children of Europe, and to portray the needs of a mother and so forth. So that if you were going to help your child, if I want to help your child, you must give of yourself. You got to find time with it. So if I go someplace, I bring the children. It's a European trait. Also, I notice they do that. They bring their children just about everywhere, and not to exclude them. I think that you've got, for example, going to a parents' meeting. A lot of times I don't see the parents at a meeting. The other night we had a meeting here. I did speak to about I don't know, 7 or 8